How does Yoko feel about overpopulation? As a woman, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, I think the problem is not overpopulation as people believe it to be, but it's more of the balance of things. What, like food, some part of the world there's wastage of food, and in some parts, nobody has food. That kind of a balance, if that is solved, I don't think we would be worried so much about overpopulation.
I think it's a bit of a joke the way people have made this overpopulation thing into a kind of myth. I don't really believe it, I think whatever happens will balance itself out and work itself out. It's all right for us all living saying, oh, well, there's enough of us, so we won't have any more. Don't let anybody else live. I don't believe in that. I think we've got enough food and money to feed everybody. And I think the natural balance, even though old people will last longer, I'm sure there's enough room for us, and some of them can go to the moon anyway.
You mean you think there's enough, if it were
I don't believe overpopulation, I think that's just a kind of myth that government have thrown out to keep your mind off Vietnam and Ireland and all the important subjects.
Oh, I think you're wrong about that.
Oh, I don't care.
All right.
And there you have it. John Lennon from the grave making a scientific chump out of Obama's science advisor, John Holdren, and Paul Ehrlich. By the way, Paul Ehrlich called for forced sterilization agents in our water to reduce population. He was called worse than Hitler by his contemporaries in the 1960s and 1970s. John Holdren opposed the agricultural revolution of Norman Borlaug, who won a Nobel Prize by bringing golden rice to Asia and feeding billions of people and creating, a better life for people. You know why John Holdren opposed it? Because he didn't want our earth to support more people. It is, as Patrick Moore, the former founder of Greenpeace, said, environmentalism today is the most anti-human agenda, and that's what we're finding in Africa. We have people like Governor Jerry Brown in California, who said at UN conferences, I interviewed him in 2002 at the Earth Conference, the developing world can't emulate Western prosperity because the Earth couldn't handle it. We need something like 10 or 20 more Earths to handle it. Here you have white, wealthy Westerners telling people of color, 1.6 billion of them, don't have running water, electricity, living in dire poverty, their children dying in infant mortality, living in huts made of dung, being told by white, wealthy Westerners they can't have what we have because the Earth can't handle it because of fraudulent man-made global warming fears. If that is not a racist message, I don't know of anything else that is. We have people, Ugandan activists in Africa, saying that Al Gore uses more electricity in a day than they use in a year. They recognize what's going on here. India has said they won't sign on to emission restrictions when 40% of their residents don't have running water and electricity. This madness has to be stopped. The problem is it is now shifted over to an unelected bureaucracy in the EPA, and the UN can do a lot even without treaties. And the United States can commit us to a lot without even having the Senate ratify.
But the good news is we're starting to turn the tide. And if we continue to realize just how monstrous these people are, we can defeat them and stop letting them have the fake moral high ground from their palaces. And, you're mentioning the death sentence for over 1 billion people in the third world. Lord Monckton's actuaries and others have proven that. The UN admits it. Over the next decade, if they put any of these in place, they tell the third world at the Copenhagen event 2 years ago, right on the heels of ClimateGate coming out, that, hey, don't worry, we're going to tax the West and give you money. Then they got the treaty, and it was right at double the carbon cuts for them that we would have, a total death sentence. I mean, it's annoying if your gas prices go up and, you can barely live. But it's one thing if you're an African on $2 a day or less, this is a death sentence.
Yeah, even innocuous things in UK, they were going to buy local and not have food imported. Who did that affect? Kenyan farmers in Africa rebelled when the UK tried to do this because their livelihood were these fruit exports. So every action has a reaction, and what's most repulsive about the man-made global warming movement is the idea, and this was mentioned by UK scientist Philip Stott, it's a new form of colonialism. It's white, wealthy Westerners going into Africa and South America and telling these governments, you can't develop, you can't use your natural resources the way you want to. I interviewed a South African activist a few years ago who said that the developing world should tell the developed world, i.e. the Western world, the United States, to go to hell if they're telling them they can't develop their resources unless Washington and England and France and Germany are willing to bomb their cities and level them back to swamps, wetlands, and forests. We have no business telling Brazil that they can develop their forests, and they've called it in Brazil, they're on a desert of gold because they can't touch their land because of international treaties. Obama has told the international community you can't have coal plants in Africa. They need nuclear in Africa to bring running water.
But China can build.
It's all being stopped.
But China can build 3 new ones a week. We get about 3 a year. And Mark, as you know, Al Gore, Lord Rothschild, Rockefellers, Oprah Winfrey, they're not stupid. When they put these global environmental rules in, they admit it, they're all selectively enforced. The EPA doesn't let new coal plants open that are clean unless it's General Electric. 7 months ago, he gave them a waiver the day the new stuff went into effect. He gives his buddies health care waivers. McDonald's doesn't have to buy it, but a mom and pop does have to buy insurance for their employees, and then they go out of business. So really, it's all just about they say what you can do, how you can live your life, and they selectively enforce however they want. It's nothing but a green mafia, and it's time to recognize them for the Nazis they are. You study the Green Movement. After Germany fell with Hitler, the eugenicists started the Green Movement here in the U.S. and England, as you know, Mark. And I've made the film Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement. And they said, we've got to now pose as environmentalist and conservationist so we can take control of society and teach people they're bad so we can have one-child policies. And that's what they've done. And we need to really recognize just how purely wicked and evil these obese, demonic man-bear pigs are. Your comments on that?
Yeah, well, you mentioned Germany, and right now their German climate advisor, a man named Schellenhuber, is proposing a CO2 budget for every man, woman, and child on the planet, monitored by an international agency. This follows the UK proposal for employees to carry carbon ration cards where the government monitors your air travel, your thermostat, your car mileage. This is what beyond what George Orwell envisioned in his novel 1984. You have Nancy Pelosi going to China to warn that we need a complete inventory on every aspect of our lives to fight man-made global warming. They're telling us openly. Al Gore talks about the climate bill being key to forwarding global governance. They want that monitor every aspect of your life, and that is not hyperbole. That is absolute what they're saying, their verbatim message. And what's most frightening is you have Republicans infected by this. You have Mayor Bloomberg in New York, if you can call him a Republican, actually bragging that he's helping with, I think it's the NRDC or one of the environmental groups, stopping hundreds of coal plants from being built in America. Half of our electricity comes from coal, and we're going to be making people die in heat waves.
No, it's incredible.
Freeze in the winter. And you have people like Christie, who's a Tea Party hero, bragging openly, first of all, that he agrees with Al Gore on man-made global warming, and second of all, that he's stopping all coal plants in New Jersey.
Well, that's because it's a big business for them. They know what it's all about. Marc Morano, we want to thank you. And as they continue to squeeze, the resistance is only going to mount. Thanks to you and others, our credibility is exploding. Their credibility is imploding. And Al Gore's reduced to a blubbering, cussing man-bear pig.
Enjoy Al Gore's meltdown. He's earned it. He is an utter and complete failure at this point, and he knows it after spending $300 million.
All right, Marc Morano, we'll talk to you soon. All right, there he goes from ClimateDepot.com. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to beat these green Nazis. The genetic engineering, all that kind of stuff are serious threats. The toxic waste dumping, that's real. Bisphenol A in the plastics, fluoride in the water, that's all real stuff. I don't want to drink poison. But the people that run the environmental movement, A, keep you away from real issues, and B, it's all about a power grab. Now,